Welcome to Living Free in Tennessee, where we talk about building the life you choose on your terms. Today is Friday, February 2nd, 2024, and this is episode 857 of Living Free in Tennessee. And the first thing I need to know this morning is our audio working? Because I was messing around trying to get up on my TV on the wall, y'all, so I don't have to keep looking over at my computer to see what you're saying in the comments, but it grossly failed. Is that a good way to explain that?
Probably.
Yeah. So if you can't hear what I'm saying, if you can hear what I'm saying, let me know. If you can't, eventually, I know y'all will start complaining about not having audio. Speaking of audio, Tactical, can you project and say good morning?
I just said something.
That's not projecting.
Well, this is my normal tone of voice.
Yes. Can you speak in your not normal tone of voice today, please?
What? I don't know what you want from me.
Use your stomach muscles and speak a little bit louder, like you were speaking to a room of people.
Okay.
Excellent. Okay. So Tactical is, of course, with me today. And if you all have questions, put the word question in all caps, colon, and then the rest of the thing. Actually, I don't care if you put the colon in there or not. But in order for me to actually see on this tiny screen over here that you wanted me to see what you said, I need that assistance, or else it's hard for me to build it in. And yes, I know Tactical speaks quieter than I do. We're trying to get him to project like he's speaking to a room full of people. I tried to mix the mics today. That was a catastrophe as well. So we'll keep trying at this. Eventually, we'll be able to turn me down and turn him up. We're going to talk about priority schizophrenia today, and electric fences, preparing for spring planting, and more. He's smirking right now because I said priority schizophrenia. Do you know what that means?
I'm sure I'm about to find out.
Yep. So before we do that, though, let's talk about our featured event of today. You know what our featured event is?
I don't know. Pick one.
The Kentucky Sustainable Living Expo, which is in March. Go to KentuckySustainableLiving.com to find out more. They've got tickets on sales. They have a couple workshops in advance. They're selling vendor spaces. It looks like it's going to be a pretty cool event. I didn't get to go to the last one, but I'm probably going to pop up to this one if I'm in town. And I think I'll be in town. It's, I think, the weekend of the 24th of March. It's a couple weeks before Self-Reliance Festival, so I should be able to pop up there at least for a day to check it out. I didn't get to go last year, so I'm stoked that this time we have it scheduled when I'm not scheduled to speak elsewhere. And I don't know if T will go or not. Do you think you're going to go?
I have no idea.
Okay. He has no idea. Anyway, check it out, KentuckySustainableLiving.com. Also, I want to thank our two sponsors of today's show. One is the Wealthsteading podcast. I am bringing this up today because we talk about homesteading today. Homesteaders have a tendency to really focus on our food production and forget about our wealth production. But John Pugliano of Investable Wealth has a really cool podcast. It's about 15-minute long episodes that you can listen to increase your knowledge of the financial world and investing, which may seem counterintuitive to what we're trying to do because we're like opting out of the system and supporting our own needs. But he approaches wealth development as a homesteader, or from a homesteader's mindset, where he is nurturing wealth. He did not work with people until he had made his first $1 million. And I think it's a pretty cool way to just bone up on some basic skills about investing. He's got his early episodes is are basically all about his principles of investing. He's also a homesteader. I think it's a great place to put some time. And you should be nurturing your wealth as well as your food on your homestead, because when emergencies happen and you can pay for them, it's a beautiful thing. Something that kind of bugs me about the homesteading network is people who almost wear poverty like a badge of honor. And I know that's a critique and people may come after me for that, but I don't care. Poverty is not a badge of honor. Sometimes we find ourselves impoverished and in a poverty situation, and that's not something to be looked down your nose upon. But that is something that does not serve you well if you want health and prosperity in your future. Money isn't everything, but poverty can cause a lot of problems. And if you can focus on bringing yourself up out of that, then you end up in a better place. And homesteading can be a tool to get you more impoverished, or it can be a tool to get you wealthier. So let's do the second thing and build the community together and build ourselves up. I think it's a great thing. Anyway, Wealthsteading Podcast is at investablewealth.com. Our second sponsor of today's show is none other than Hollow Roast Coffee. That's right. HollowRoast.com has coffee that you can spill on your lap in the middle of a live stream, and also coffee that's delicious, roasted to order and shipped to you anywhere in the US. Find out more at hollowroast.com. With that, I want to talk about priority schizophrenia. Do you know what I mean about priority schizophrenia?
Not exactly.
I have been watching this dude up until about 2 days ago grumble and walk around complaining about how he can't get anything done. That is priority schizophrenia. Do you remember that conversation we had? It was Tuesday.
No.
I was like, well, first of all, when people display their bad moods around me, as much as I try to have a boundary and not take it on, it actually derails my day somewhat. I work really hard not to do that. But he was walking around with like an actual visual storm cloud. Like, have you seen a, a cartoon where there's like this nasty cloud and it's scowling and it's like shooting out lightning bolts? Like that was you on Tuesday morning.
That's not surprising. The way
And
my weekend went.
and it's because every time he tried to work on something, he ran into a barrier. And some of the barrier and none of the barriers are in his control. Most of them had to do with the weather or things being broken that he couldn't replace easily. But I mean, we are on a homestead and there are like 100 other things you can do.
Yeah.
So he walked around grumbling, and finally I'm like, I can't handle this anymore. Like, I either have to ask him to go grumble in the cabin by himself, or we have to talk about this. So we sat down and had a talk, and I'm like, what is going on? And he's like, everything I want to work on, I can't work on. And there's so much to do, and I'm not making any forward momentum, and I'm cold. Rednecks don't like to be cold, by the way.
My feet have been cold for like 3 weeks.
Have you taken a bath?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
You need to get a little soaking thing for your feet.
Like, yeah, it's just. This is why I hate winter. It's like right now I'm in a zone where I just cannot completely get warmed back up. I'm still reeling from what, 2 weeks ago?
So this is a resilience issue.
I don't know.
I do, because I am warm. I am sitting here in a t-shirt in my house right now.
Okay.
And I think part of why you're cold is you refuse to eat all day.
I don't refuse to eat all day. I was chewing on some nuts before we started.
Let this be noted that the redneck was chewing on nuts before this started.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, but yesterday when I'm like, you need to have this bone broth, which I had packaged in a to-go cup. I had a sippy cup for him, basically. Did you refuse?
Oh yeah, she's very infamous for you should eat food. I was trying to be out the door 5 minutes ago. Like, no, I don't want to stop and eat food.
Okay,
I'm
so this
already
is this
running
is what
late.
this looks like, man. You didn't eat food all morning, and then you were leaving, and you gave me like a half hour notice. And I'm in the middle of roasting coffee, so I get to a stopping point of roasting coffee. I managed to make scrambled eggs happen in record time,
Which I did eat.
which you did eat, and I had bone broth already heated on the wood stove, which I can hand you in a sippy cup, which goes well in a car. Otherwise, he wouldn't have eaten anything. He would have gone to town and not been home until like 4 o'clock, still having not eaten all day. And he tells me he's cold and can't get warm.
Say that like I never eat food.
He rarely eats food until the evening. And then, and I think you do need to have that lunch thing. I think you in particular need to have that lunch thing. Anyway, we sat down and I'm like, what projects are there? How can we line this out? And how can you stop spinning? Because when you're spinning, you get, not only does he not get stuff done, but he breaks things as he gets more and more frustrated. Have you noticed that you do that?
Sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't break them by raging at them. He just breaks them because he's frustrated and trying to get something down and rhinocerosing through, and then the rhinoceros breaks the thing. Or he uses the wrong thing to do the thing, and then the wrong thing breaks the thing, and then he's like, I knew that was going to happen, but I did it anyway. Guilty?
I don't know. I
Yeah.
can't think of an example of that.
So here we are in the wonderful window of it. Today is the perfect day to pour cement pillars. Are we ready to do that?
Now,
Why not? Did you get the stuff yesterday while you were at Lowe's?
no, because that was not on my priority list. The cement that I'm planning on doing today is next door.
Okay. So this is where we run into priority schizophrenia. We have different priorities. We've talked about it. Can't come to an agreement. Because that's definitely on my priority because I'm expecting in the next 2 weeks to want to use this thing and we don't have it installed all the way.
I can only do so much.
Next door is a priority over this, but why didn't we get the concrete for it?
Because I haven't figured out exactly how much I need.
Oh, okay. That sounds like a
That's
fun math project after school today.
that might happen today.
Guys, when you're on the homestead, there's always more to do. But when you get to spinning mode, like what's your strategy for stopping spinning? Because you were just spinning for 3 weeks. And then we had the conversation, and whatever you did, you actually did stop spinning. What did you do to make that happen? Because I think that's the important part.
I mean, realizing that my brain works very differently than most people's, I have so big projects that were painful. And once I got over okay, I need sealant for this project, I need this fitting for that project, I need this for that project, I need it to not rain. Like, once got past that, it was in my brain, there is something one of those projects is consuming. And so it was take that one and get it out of the way. Because for me, once this project is done and my brain is not being sucked into that constantly, then I can actually pay attention to this project.
Yeah,
So,
we run into this where he's like hyper focused on something like, let's say, fixing the plumbing at base camp is really bugging you, which was not what was really bugging you. What was really bugging you was wiring in the cabin. And um, other things need to happen, but the problem is he can't stop thinking about the wiring in the cabin long enough to fix the broken faucet.
yeah. And then once I did get to what my brain considered a stopping point on the wiring, the daunting project of cutting this faucet out of a wall in the ceiling was like, okay, now I can actually think about that clearly. And what I was expecting to be a complete nightmare took about 15 or 20 minutes because I had to, and it only took that long because I had to come back over here literally 3 times.
And this is a classic example of we worried more about how terrible that would be than how terrible it actually was.
Yeah. And it was also an aspect of like, if I had tried to do that before the wiring, it would have been way worse because my brain wasn't in that project. And once I actually could sit down and it's like, okay, that is the next project that's on my priority list, I was able to think about, okay, I need this, 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 this. I'm going to take the drill and this size drill bit for a just in case factor, and I can actually come up with a list of things to take over there with me and actually game plan everything in my head, and that just it makes it a lot smoother.
Yep. So this can be a struggle because on the homestead we have 9 priorities right now. Everything that doesn't get done one more day takes a step back, like the camper and all of the other things. But the problem is you got to get one thing done. So that's just a thing. Like
And
I
see,
think the camper we may need to waterproof it a different way in the interim.
and that's another side of it too, is like until you said that just now, I completely forgot about that one. And I have an open tube of sealant that needs to get used.
Yeah, so we need to pull the window and reseal that window.
We should look to see what can get done on that.
Yeah.
Because today and tomorrow is a good day to do that.
Yep. Absolutely. And I think a good solution for this that I don't have in place because I have not found somebody to help me make it is before the remodel, I had a board. We don't have the board where we can be like, these things are going on. And I want like a pretty wood bulletin board above the coffee station over there so that I can put like, lists of things so we can kind of keep the big picture stuff in mind.
Yeah. And
Because
that's,
we talk about it every week, but he doesn't look back at the calendar because it's not hanging on the wall.
yeah. And that's another thing that pisses me off is a lot of things that you can purchase now suck. So I actually bought 2 whiteboards and I mounted them on the wall and I stopped using them because it's a dry erase marker that doesn't erase. So it takes like 15 minutes to clean something that's written down off of the board. And so I'm like, no, I'm not doing it.
Well,
And I haven't found a better
if
solution
you
yet.
take the dry erase board off the door that is no longer installed between the mudroom and my kitchen, like it's just a floppy piece. That one is metal and it actually erases.
Huh.
But if you leave any dry erase on for a long time, it won't. Like
Yeah. No, this one, I don't know what they did to make this stuff, but it sucks.
No, I know because in the roasting shack, I have that same issue. If it's cold and I write on my dry erase board, it will not erase until I scribble over it with a dry erase marker and erase that.
Oh,
And then once it gets up above 65 degrees, it will. So that's a matter of, and that is true. Like a lot of dry erase boards are that way. That one's a melamine, so it's not technically dry erase, but it works like dry erase. And so I know why, and that's probably the same thing. Yeah, and somebody says alcohol cleans the board. That's what he
yeah.
means by 15 minutes. He has to go get his alcohol, clean the board, and the whole purpose of dry erase is I wrote one thing and I want to do this, erase it off. Now, I get it when it's been there a week or two, but when you just wrote it 10 minutes ago, it's actually super frustrating when it doesn't erase.
Yeah. And that's exactly the point. Is the whole point is for me to be able to just wipe it off, not I've got to walk to the kitchen, get a paper towel, then I got to walk to the bathroom to get the alcohol, then I got to walk back to my computer table, and then I got to go put everything back. Or worse yet, the alcohol ends up sitting next to my computer for a week or 3 months or a year because I never get around to putting it back in the bathroom until I slice myself open and I need it. Like, and it's something that there's a firearms instructor named Travis
That noise
Haley.
is coming through your mic.
There's a firearms instructor named Travis Haley, and he was talking about how he is so fast putting rounds on target, and he talks about efficiency of motion. And when he draws, it's where can I shave off 0.3 seconds? And you take 5 things like that and put it together, and he shaved off, 1.5 seconds. And so I kind of not necessarily try to get that efficiency with everything that I do, but the only reason that I'm able to do most of what I do on a homestead is because I don't have to spend 15 minutes 3 times a day taking water to the rabbits. I literally have a hose that I can walk by, see the fact that the rabbits need water, pick the hose up, lay it on the thing, turn it on, and stand there until it's full.
Yeah, this is a good point from Pack Rat. He says a salvage plate glass desktop similar mounted over a white surface works better than any whiteboard, which is what our the day of the week calendar. That's why I got that.
Yeah,
Because I got glass because at least glass I can, dry erase. So
that's what I want, and I have not even taken the time to research what it would take to make one, and I haven't seen one to buy.
yeah, plexiglass actually works pretty well too.
Yeah.
And we have a piece of plexiglass over there that's not used behind the roasting shack.
I forgot about that piece.
Yeah, you can cut it. Like it's a giant 4x8 sheet of plexiglass.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's because I had a dry erase board made out of melamine in front of the house where you still have to clean it with alcohol sometimes if it's been there a long time. But that literally we just put literally, that's a stupid word. Anyway, we put my extra plexiglass over it when I had extra pieces because of the same reason that dry erase board was hard to clean all the time. So
Yeah.
that's been a good, but I mean, obviously, when it's been baked by the sun at 97 degrees for 2 days, like it's hard to erase. That's a different thing, though.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. Our first segment of today's show is forage. What are you finding when you're out and about, T? Mud. Yeah. About the mud room, I should mop that floor every day and my whole house would be cleaner, but I don't because even though we take our shoes off on the way into the house, it gets tracked in and my dog's feet need to be wiped every day. But the scale of mud around here this last 2 weeks has been amazing. However, through the mud, I see new grass growing. New grass means food for the sheep.
Yeah, there's not a lot of grass over there right now.
Yep. That doesn't
And
surprise me.
the other fun part is my four-wheeler was not very stable on that hill, so I put a wider set of front tires on it. That four-wheeler is now awesome on the side of the hill. It's very stable. However, that also means the tires stick out from underneath the fender flares. So when I hit the mud, that thing definitely slings some mud now.
Oh, you're gonna
I've
get
been doing
Nighthawk with it?
I've been doing that for 2 weeks. Oh no, it goes straight up in the air.
Yeah, that's why my driveway's so muddy.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to start hosing that off or something. Because that tracks in my house too, and your house, and everybody's house. Um, I did notice that a dandelion is up now, like an actual blooming. It's a blooming dandelion. It was -4 degrees 2 weeks ago, and I've got dandelions coming on. Like literally time to early spring harvest those, and that's kind of good because apparently they're helpful with bladder infections.
Okay.
Yeah, which is something I learned recently. Um, Firewood update. How's your firewood doing?
Not good at
What,
all.
what are you going to do about that?
I need to figure out which pile I'm pulling from because I'm down to the last of what I had stored because I with the changes I made to my stove, I'm going through a lot more firewood. Plus, that week of cold, I went through probably 3 to 4 times the amount of wood that I normally go through in a day.
Yeah, we should look at a different wood stove for you, probably.
Maybe. I'm not sure it was. I'm not sure my problem is the wood stove. My problem is I'm actually using the wood stove correctly now.
But it's going through a lot of wood.
I still don't think I go through as much wood as you do.
Okay.
I think it's just part of the problem that I had with all the creosote buildup was the fact that I wasn't using the stove correctly. And now that I am using it correctly, I was actually on the roof today looking, and I've got some creosote in there, but it's not anything like it normally would have been. But that also means that I'm going through a little bit more wood. Not a whole lot more wood, but a little bit.
Yeah, we should check and see if you're going through more than I am, because usually this stove is 25% of that stove.
Okay.
Interestingly. But we'll see. I went through half that circle yesterday.
I think I used 4 or 5 logs yesterday.
Okay. Interesting. My firewood is doing well, but you should pull from base camp because that firewood is for next year.
Yeah.
I'm struggling with unseasoned wood
Yeah.
because I didn't have enough. Basically, for my stove, I go through less wood if it's been seasoned for 2 years. I go through more wood, and that's part of why I'm going through more wood right now, because I have to burn it hotter all the time
Yeah.
just to get it going. So, Red Flyer Media wants to know if you have the fire bricks in it.
Yes. The stove that I have is like a cast iron stove. It might not actually be cast iron, but I mean, it's thick metal, and then it's got the interior lining with fire bricks, and then it is a rebreather, which I think is also, I need to actually pull the whole rebreathing system apart on mine and make sure that there's nothing clogging that up.
Mine's actually clogged.
Yeah, yours probably needs to be pulled apart too.
Yeah, we'll do that in the summer. I'm going to make it through the rest of the winter on this.
Same.
But at this point, like, I woke up this morning and debated if I even kept the fire going because it's warm in here.
Yeah, I let mine go out today.
And I'll probably let it go out and then start it again tonight and be all grumpy about the fact it's cold tonight, but that's okay. That's life with firewood. Like, sometimes you get to the point, like, do I keep it going? It's a little, like, last night it was 77 degrees in here, which was a bit warm. And at the same time, I didn't want the fire to go out, so I just kind of kept it going. Oh, we're
Yeah.
about to have dog barks. But that's basically what I'm finding. I'm seeing that Emily, was it Emily who said it? Somebody said it, that they have dandelions coming up. Our dandelions are not blooming yet, but we're starting to see the spikes. And that means that it is the perfect time to trim the fruit trees and pollard the fodder trees, which is on my list this weekend. I have 3 things on my list. I have one is plant the peas, one is work on the trees, and one is to move leaf mulch up to the garden beds to get them, the ones that are not leaf mulched in, to get them leaf mulched in before stuff starts popping up. Those are my 3 things for the weekend.
You know.
So that's the deal. Okay, livestock. We need good hay.
Yes.
And I think, we need to just go get it from the co-op probably.
Probably, and that's one of those that I didn't even bother putting any effort into because I knew yesterday I wasn't picking it up. Today I'm not picking it up. Tomorrow, probably most everybody's going to be closed unless I can get there first thing in the morning. So it'll be Monday before I have a chance to actually go anywhere. So
We could pick it up today.
you say that.
I have to drive like right by it on my way to see our friends in Sparta.
There's going to be a whole coordination thing about that because I'm not going there.
Okay. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Then maybe you drop your truck off after work with Nighthawk.
I don't know.
Because I'm not going there and back and then there again.
And why I said we need to sit down and have a conversation when the time comes.
We don't actually communicate with each other. The time is coming that I leave in about an hour after this live stream.
Yeah.
Okay. Eggs are slow. Eggs, there's absolutely no reason for our eggs to be slow right now. So I am now going back to the drawing board on chicken feed, duck feed.
Yeah.
And seeing if that's the cause of it, but like, I'm about ready to kill all the birds.
Yeah. I haven't made it to that point yet, but
Ducks, there's no reason, but I'm like, are these chickens just faulty? Like, what is the deal? They weren't all that robust from the breeder.
yeah, the ducks are the ones that's confusing me because I should be finding eggs somewhere and I'm not. Like I haven't found I found a couple of eggs that a dog found in the yard somewhere, but that was like 3 or 4 eggs. And other than that, it's not like, oh,
And they have
they're laying over
supplemental
here.
light, so it's not the light.
They actually don't have supplemental light for the last 3 days,
Oh,
but
3 days. Okay. Well, let's do a duck reset this weekend,
okay,
which we are prepared to do, and free feed them.
okay,
But we need to free feed them not in the coop. So let's talk about what we can do to set up free feed in the yard.
okay.
Because I'm wondering if it's just not enough protein going down the ducks.
Maybe.
Because they're not eating that much.
Okay.
The chickens have had free access, so they don't get any slack.
No,
But I think it's possible they're hiding their chicken eggs somewhere.
that's also possible.
Yeah. Um, are they still molting? No, it's not a molting issue.
No.
Yeah, this is not a molting issue. And I'm also interested in, we may actually change feed up to the commercial do more feed
Just to see.
just to see if it's the feed we're buying. Because, awesome organic soy free feed that does not result in eggs is not worthwhile.
Yeah.
And I'm a little suspicious of the feed right now.
Same. I've never experienced this with poultry. Just a complete lack of eggs.
I mean, when they molt, yes.
Well, when they molt, but this has been like we've got new ducks that should have started laying and basically never started laying.
Yeah,
Like this is just weird.
it is. We just switched from egg crumbles to pellets. Yep, we are on pellets too. Um, the duck feeding system is something he and I need to talk about because the way they're fed, there's a lot of waste, and I think we can address that a little bit better too. So, and we may need to clear out some males.
Yeah, that as
There
well.
aren't as many males as I thought. There are some males, and we may want to reduce that a bit. Um, Same with the chickens.
Yeah.
Like tonight, when the sun sets, we're gonna go get 2 males, and we're either gonna kill them right then, or we're gonna put them in the place where we put them before they get processed. But they're going to the dogs tomorrow.
Take them with the dogs tonight.
I mean, do you want to throw a dead chicken with the dogs after dark when there's coyotes around?
That doesn't scare me at all.
Okay, well,
That's what
yeah,
the dogs are for.
yeah. We do feed those dogs raw, so we could do that.
Yeah.
And that may be actually impacting the eggs on the chickens too, but I think it's protein.
That would make sense.
Yeah. And they've had a couple weeks to recover from the extreme cold. So I get that like there are climates where it goes to -20 and people still get eggs, but so I think there's some amount of when it's sudden like that, it's just different.
And our ducks are also not acclimated to that.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not happy with it. The coop management that we have is not working. Deep litter has worked for me for years. It is not working for the ducks. And I need to just put eyes on that every day while we figure that out.
You know.
So, because I've had this many ducks before and not had the problems we're having with fecal matter buildup. But then it looks like it's a lot of trampled food.
Okay.
You don't think so?
Eh, I tend to think it's not just trampled food. I think that's probably a contributing factor, but I don't think it's just that.
Yeah. And we could start sprouting sunflower seeds again.
Yeah, I've tried doing that and never gotten a system that was actually manageable.
Yeah. And I haven't tried because the front of Taj Mahal has construction stuff still.
Yeah.
And until that's cleared, I'm not adding another system. So, and that's how we make decisions here. Like we could just do unsprouted ones. They will eat them, but they like them better sprouted for sure. It is also time to process bunnies. Do you want to keep any of these for actual bunny food? Or do you want to just straight up dog food them?
I'm voting straight up dog food because I don't want to take the time to process them with everything else that's going on.
Yeah, and we have a lot of meat in the freezer right now.
Yeah.
So I'm still getting through the tail ends of what's in the black upright freezer, which is about 2 years old, and a lot of it is poultry slash rabbit style whiter meat.
Yeah.
Um, which then means once that's and that stuff we just cook a little differently. Once I'm through everything in there, I may want to get another set of rabbits in the freezer.
Yeah. I would just say plan on the next batch of
Yeah,
babies, several of those go in the freezer instead of to dogs.
yeah. I did a video about like January lasting forever because because January always lasts forever. But this January we got, because of how the first fell, we got sort of 5 January weeks instead of 4, because we got 3 days this week. We're still January.
You know.
It was the 5th week. So I held up a male bunny and I was like, we decided to breed the rabbits on February 1st. Sorry, buddy, not tonight. Um, People thought that was kind of funny. Anyway, and did we breed the rabbits on February 1st? No, but they're going to breed this weekend. It is time again. Um, and then we're needing to retrain the sheep because the fence chargers have not been working. And we've had the premier fence chargers for about, a year, and they just have stopped working. They cycle out. What we've been able to do is when one stops working, we put the other one on, and that has, and then like I don't know, like sitting on a shelf for a while, it it seems to reset and then works again. But we've had a big problem with the Premier One fence chargers developing the kind of wallop we want to give the sheep, and as a result, the sheep have been testing the wires, and then as a result, they've been getting out. And like even our dog, the one dog who's super scared of getting shocked, he has been getting out. So like they're on to us. They've figured it out. And that means that we are looking for other fence chargers. And we'll tell a fence charger story later because we are now experimenting with different brands, and we'll keep you posted on which ones work better. Actually, Dawn Gorham was over on Friday because we were recording Homegrown Cooking last Friday, and she was like, yeah, the Premier One fence chargers last about a year, and then I have to change them out. And then you go through this phase of things getting out all the time, which sucks.
Yeah. And the other mind-boggling part to me with the Premier One is that's exactly what's on the goat pasture, and I have never had one single problem out of that fence charger.
But there's a difference between them.
Wow.
AC/DC.
Well, yeah, that the one in the goat pasture is on AC. So I don't know if that might be it. Is the Premier One just doesn't like running off the battery?
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. Um, we have a whole jury rig situation over at the sheep pasture that we'll talk about in a minute. Our next segment is Grow. This is where we talk about what's growing on the homestead. I have not started any of my seedlings. It is so past due to do seedlings right now,
Yeah.
for peppers in particular. So I don't know how we're getting that done because I already told you guys my 3 things for the weekend, and none of that had to do with seedlings. But it's 100% time for seedlings. The final day of the pantry challenge in January, when I wanted to make taco salad, which is one of my go-to things to make when I'm in a hurry and haven't had a chance to defrost something or don't want to deal with, a frozen roast or something. We were out of fresh greens. So I got to go foraging for fresh greens, and I was just very thankful that there was Swiss chard in the aquaponics system. The aquaponics system, which needs to be top watered or that's going to die.
Yeah.
Um, the problem with the aquaponics system and watering is that the hose to water it with is on the complete other side of the house. So you have to like string several hoses together.
At least there's a hose outside that works in the wintertime now.
Yeah, well, it didn't work when it froze.
No, but that's just because I need to finish sealing that. But it used to be during the winter time, if you wanted to use a hose outside, you had to go in the attic, turn the valves on, go outside, use the hose, go back in the attic, close the valves, blow the whole system out.
You could do it that way.
Well,
It's right
now you
there.
can
Now you
do
can
it
just go
that
in the
way.
living room and do it.
That makes it easier, but the antifreeze faucets in the wall are even better.
Yeah, the antifreeze faucets didn't antifreeze though, and hopefully there's no leak in my wall.
Well, there's not a leak in the wall.
Okay,
I
that's
would have
good.
already known about it if that was the case.
I guess it would start seeping into the drywall, huh?
That and pump problems and everything else.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Um, and it's time to plant peas and, of course, pollarding. But I would say February on a homestead for us in Tennessee is about uh, garden bed preparation, pruning things, seedlings, and Operation Eyesore. We need to be purposeful about Operation Eyesore. Operation Eyesore gets really bad in the winter because you're cold and you finish something and you leave it out. You, not you specifically you.
Yeah.
So, and then winds come and blow things all over the place. So we have some amount of like stuff needs to move to places. And in fact, I have all the poultry processing equipment up here that needs to not be up here.
Yeah.
So we should do that. Yeah. You know, on our light to-do list is Operation Eyesore. And when we have a day like today where it's warm, it's a good day to do it. Uh, 3 days ago, it was pouring down rain and miserable, and that's not a good day to do it. But I don't think I know any homesteaders who don't end up with, random shovels in weird places at this time of year.
Yeah.
I have some homestead friends who just buy like 10 shovels and put them all near the places where they want shovels.
I, to an extent, do that.
Yeah. So, homestead meals. What was your favorite homestead meal this week?
I don't really remember what we ate this week.
Okay. That
Like, the last week has been a blur.
My favorite one was last night.
I do remember last night, and the ribs were good.
So we had lamb rib chops, which are like lamb chops, but they have the whole rib, so it's a little bit longer. There's a little bit of meat there, and it's a good balance of fat and meat. And I've never cooked that style of lamb chop before. And because of how the day worked out yesterday, I decided to do a reverse sear. And a reverse sear is when you sear it off, but don't cook it all the way. And then you can either finish it off in the oven by baking it, reduce heat on your skillet, and finish it off that way. Put it under the broiler, which you then wouldn't need to sear it. So why would you do that? Or put it in the sous vide. I put it in the sous vide because some of our sheep were a little tougher than I wanted originally. And the one that I had the ribs from was an older animal. That was an older animal. So it had the risk that it would be a tough animal.
Yeah.
So 2 hours in the sous vide at 131 really helps with that. Plus, then that gave me time to do a workout because as I've been reading this book, Outlive, I've realized I need to work out in different ways every day, more purposefully. And it's literally about making half an hour in my day, which can be really hard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was like, well, if dinner's cooking itself, then that half hour I'd be cooking dinner, I can be working out. And so I did that, threw them in the sous vide, and then made a salad to go with it because pantry challenge month is over, and I got to buy some lettuce at the store, and that's what we had for dinner. That was delicious. I just, in order to do that, I salted them, seared them, and then I put them in the sous vide with rosemary, garlic, and butter, and that was it. And my only complaint is the bag I used let a little bit of the liquid in, so they were soupy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because they get a little soupy anyway, but I need to change the oil on my chamber vac sealer before I use it, and that is what has kept me from using it. Um, And I guess I should get that done so I can use the stupid thing again, because that's why it's here.
Yeah.
Because that's actually a tougher bag than when I use a Ziploc. Packrat says, yard sale tools are excellent for drop it here tools. Oh, look, I got my thumbs up. Every so often, see this one, I just don't know. Ah, I got it. This is the small things that make Gen X people happy.
It's the small things that really irritate the piss out of people like me.
It's like, can I do it again though? I don't know like how I do it. Like I got it done that time and now it won't go. Oh well. Anyway, I keep trying to do that one.
I look at that like the computer just did something that I did not want it to do.
Everybody who's on the audio podcast is like, why does this keep happening in the middle of Nicole's episodes? It's because I use StreamYard. And sometimes you make hand gestures that make the whole video change. And every so often I get a thumbs up and it gives a thumbs up video like bubble, but they won't consistently do it. So I don't know if it's like it only does it every 10 minutes. And I've never bothered figuring it out. But there's one that makes it like totally psychedelic laser light show flash. It's kind of funny. And that's the one I keep trying to get that we giggle about. And it takes us off on a bunny trail.
You giggle about.
Hey, you guys watching it, are you giggling it or are you grumpy like this dude? That's what I want to know. You can write it in the comments. Also, if there's something you want to hear about Homestead, definitely put it in the comments. Put question in all caps, even if it's not a question, and we'll do it. So that was our meal. Okay, holler neighbors and community. Monday morning happened, and I got a call that said, hey, Nicole, is Tactical around? Because he was trying to reach Tactical and couldn't. Because I was wondering if he could come over when he has time and see why my car won't start. That was at like 7 in the morning. And Tactical was standing there and heard it. And he's like, I'll be right over. And he walked out the door. Nighthawk's car wouldn't start. And he actually commutes to work in the morning. So, no, it's not far. So T went over, tried to get the car started. It wouldn't start, offered to drive him to work. And he ended up staying home and waiting for AAA to tow his car to get fixed. And then later that day, he was like on the Holler Neighbor Zello channel saying, okay, guys, I need to borrow a car for at least the next 4 days. What do we like? How are we going to do this? Who can help me out? And so, last week in particular, I had a number of appointments offsite, or this week that we're in. And so I was like, well, we can drive you Tuesday morning, but Tuesday afternoon, no car. And then Wednesday, you can use the car all day. And then Thursday, we can drive you in the morning, but afternoon, we have no car. And then Friday, you can use my car. And then the Eversols are like, well, hey, actually, we have a car available Tuesday and Friday, or Tuesday and Thursday. So you guys do Wednesday, Friday, we'll do Tuesday, Thursday, and it'll all work out. And so he ended up borrowing a car for a couple days, and now his car is back. And that's actually something that's nice about having a close-knit neighborhood like this, is when stuff happens like that, you don't have to have a backup car necessarily, because you sort of have it built in. That being said, I would like to hire somebody to fix or to change out a head gasket in a 1986 Mitsubishi Mighty Max. And if you're hearing this and you live near me and you do this kind of work, you should reach out to me. I don't want to do the work. I just want to pay somebody to do the work. So I have a second working vehicle besides mine on the property, so that every time there's an issue, at least there's a second vehicle I can drive. And it would be nice to have the truck back in commission so I can go get wood chips with it. So I'm throwing that out there in case anybody hearing this does that work or knows somebody who does that kind of work. I don't think it's a hard job, and I know you can buy the parts for like $400 or less. And I mean, we can look at what else needs to be switched out as part of that, but really, really, really want a head gasket job done on the Mitsubishi Mighty Max. And it's guaranteed to be a tiny Japanese built truck. So good times. But it's a great old truck. Like, I love that thing. It doesn't have a lot of frills. It doesn't have air conditioning. It doesn't have an automatic transmission. It does not have a tape player. It might have a tape player. I think it's just AM FM radio, actually, though. So no automatic windows. Like, it's 100% manual 1986 Mitsubishi Mighty Max. But it is really nice to have two vehicles when you live out in the country like this. And we're about to drop T's truck back off at the mechanic today. So there we go. Tracy says, I have old mailboxes out by the gardens for tools. Yeah, that's a great idea, especially if you live in a very rainy environment. Spirko actually puts his trowel, he hangs it different ones on the sides of his raised beds, but it doesn't rain in Texas enough for that to be a problem. So, yeah. That's a really good thing. Okay, next up we have infrastructure. This is where we talk about what's being built on the homestead, and I think Tactical has finally walked back in so he can talk about it. He was checking out why dogs were losing their crap in the yard, or were you just changing out which dog loses its crap in the yard?
Yeah, there's a method to the madness. I'll let the dog out that'll actually go hunt it down and murder it if there's something that needs to be murdered.
Yeah, today is the day where the dogs go outside and they bark at the hillside.
Apparently,
Yeah.
the big one was just sitting in the driveway, just barking.
Yeah, that's what she does. That's
Usually
her
she barks
job.
at something.
Yeah, she'll chase it if it's a bird.
This is like barking at the clouds or something.
There must be some noises out there because yours is barking too. And Cece was barking.
Yeah, mine's barking because she's just announcing to the world that she is outside.
I
So
will
you should run away.
I will kill your butt. That's what she's saying.
Basically, yeah.
She doesn't like varmints at all. We end up with like the occasional possum in the yard because of that one.
Mm-hmm.
And the occasional armadillo.
Yeah, there's been some intense battles with armadillos.
There is an amazingly huge anthill on Patrick's property.
Hmm.
I was walking and I was like, that is the biggest anthill I have ever seen in my life. And I mean, there are bigger ones in other parts of the world, I'm sure, but it was probably above your knees tall.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't train the dog to murder them.
No, that we'd be dealing with dog problems then.
Yeah.
So, okay, we're on to infrastructure. All week, all Tactical wanted to do was get a shipment in the mail. How'd that go for you? It arrived yesterday. It's like that movie. The new phone book is here. The new phone book is here. He was so excited about it. What was in that box?
I was only a little bit pissed off when I opened the box.
So, tell the story without the F word, please.
I looked on the website, and everywhere it said 12-volt DC battery, 12-volt DC battery, 12-volt DC, all the way down the page.
What was
So
it?
I ordered it.
What was it?
It's a fence charger.
What kind of fence charger?
Cyclops, which is made in the USA. Supposed to be
what's
really
the brand
good.
name?
Cyclops.
Cyclops? Okay.
And it's the biggest irritating feature that I could find with this is it does not have an on-off switch. But that's actually what I want. I don't want a computerized, fancy fence charger with a remote
Okay,
control.
so then what happened when you opened the box?
And I get it, and I open it up, and it's 110.
And he yelled the F word so loud.
I was pissed.
Yeah, because it was like literally the one thing he was looking forward to this week was watching the sheep get the crap shocked out of him.
Yeah, and it's not that, I want to see the sheep get the piss shocked out of them. I want them to regain their respect for the fence, which is not going to happen unless I have a fence charger that actually works. So it's like.
So it was 4:00 and he yelled, and I was like literally about to get on a call with somebody else. And I'm like, hey, I need you to call me back. And I'm like, what's the problem? He said what the problem was. I was like, I'm going to call him right now. You can't talk to them because you're too mad. So I called him, and was it Durmax or
PowerFlex.
PowerFlex is who we bought it from. I called them, and I was just like, hey, I got the wrong item on an order. And she was like, what's the order number or your last name? And I told her, and she said, and I said, we got a 110 instead of a DC. And she was like, oh, I think I can still get one out in the mail tonight. So they actually got one. So because we called them at 4, they got it immediately remedied. And I said, here's our conundrum: is yes, I want to ship this back to you, but I need to use it for the next 4 days while we wait for this because we've got animals getting out right now. Is that okay? And she said, well, usually we wouldn't do that, but since it's our mistake, we'll let you do it. So I'm going to say this: excellent customer service.
Yes.
Snapped to, took responsibility for it. And what we did is we took one of one of my inverters that, or your inverters. Anyway, we have inverters that were intended to be used on cars to turn cars into generators from years ago. And I don't know if that's why you have that inverter, but that's why I have my 2 inverters.
Yeah.
Eh,
That one was just that, and the one time I tried to use it to run a fridge, it wouldn't run a fridge because it's too
Yeah, it
small.
was too small. Yeah. So he used the smallest one. And right now, is it still working?
Yeah, I went over there this morning and it's still appears to be working. Last night I was trying to do something to see if it was working and it sparked. And when I say it sparked, it didn't go click, the little tick that you hear
Yeah.
when something's like, no, this popped.
Yeah.
Like, popped like you just, tripped a breaker, popped. I was like, that's exactly what I want out of a charger.
So the reason we wouldn't just have an inverter over there all the time is, one, it takes more battery, and
Hmm.
two, if it gets wet, it could get fried. So what do you have keeping it from getting wet?
Right now, I have a stand that I can put the battery on and the fence charger hangs on it. And I've got some hooks on there so I can attach, fencing to the actual stand. But there's a space on there that was unused. So I put the inverter on that, ran 2 screws into it to make sure it doesn't move, and then just flipped a bucket upside down, or not a bucket, but a square bin upside down, set it on there, and it's kind of overhanging so that there's an air gap so air can still flow in and out.
Yeah, so you don't want to just close it in and have no air, or it'll overheat, because the inverters in particular, they have that cooling fan that
Hmm.
goes. So that's working for now, and the new fence charger is supposed to be here Monday, and then we'll ship this one back to them. But I wanted to tell that story because nobody does everything perfect in their company, but how you react to something like this makes a big difference. And the fact that the person who answered the phone was willing, she was like, well, let me see if I have one on the shelf. I'm going to try to get it out in the mail today. And then she did. That was amazing.
Yeah.
That was
And
amazing.
like, as far as this specific company, I've never had any issues with them up until this. And the way that they handled it was like, yeah, I have no problem doing
Yeah.
business with you.
Stellar. Even though he yelled the loudest F I've heard in weeks.
Yeah, and that was nothing to do with, anybody in particular. It's just, I mean, mistakes happen. This one just happened to be a massive, not cool thing for me.
Another cool thing on the Homestead is having spare parts. And Nighthawk has been switching out his well pump, which got taken out by the cold. And yesterday, Tactical had the moment. Tell them about the moment you had. The one where you've been saving parts for years.
No, this is not even, I've been saving parts for years. He hit me up and was like, hey, do you have 3/4 inch PVC? I'm like, probably. Like, what do you need? And he gives me a list of stuff, and it's like, okay, let me go start digging through. And I've got PVC parts that are categorized, 1 inch goes in this bin, inch and a half goes in this bin.
Okay, that's a lot of detail.
Yeah. And so it's like, I'm looking and it's like, there's nothing in here at all. And then on the table is all the parts that I haven't put back where they're supposed to go yet. And I happen to look down and there's a 3/4 inch T sitting right there. Like, just, it's like looking at me. So I grabbed that and it's like, need this other thing.
So he had the parts he needed to help
I
Nighthawk
I
without
had
going to the
one of
store.
them, and then it was like, I need a cap for this, which I don't have in 3/4, but I dig around and I managed to find enough stuff to go from 3/4 to 1/2 inch
To a cap.
with a cap. And so I took it down there and was like, look in the feed scoop. Will that work for what you need? And he was like, yep. So he grabbed everything out of there. It's like, cool.
So my question to you is this: how do you balance clutter problems on a homestead and the desire to have the right parts unexpectedly?
It's a delicate balance, I think, that's really difficult. And one of the biggest things that I've tried to do is standardization. So when I say standardization, there's some weirdness because, like, the jet pumps are all 1.25 inches. I wish they were 1.5 inches, but they're not. So I have to keep some 1.25 inch stuff on hand, and that's in its own special little bag. And then I try everything with everything else. I try to standardize on, yeah, we could get away with a 2 inch pipe over here, but we stock 3 inch. Putting a 3 inch pipe on this isn't going to hurt anything. So we're running that in 3 inch so that I don't have to stock two sizes of
And
pipe.
I have a whole nother pile of PVC parts up here in
Yeah.
case that ever comes up. So the way I approach it is I look at what we have or what I have that's like piling up, because clutter is something I'm like fighting right now really hard. And if it's something that I know we're not using anytime soon and it's easy to source, I actually will get rid of it, especially if it's cheap. And an example of this in the kitchen is cookie sheets. Like, you can always source cookie sheets, and sure, if society crumbles, then I'm just gonna have to live with the fact I have 2 cookie sheets. But sometimes I need 6 cookie sheets, like for a Living Free in Tennessee spring workshop, for example.
Yeah.
And I was storing that stuff all the time, but I realized that storing that stuff all the time was causing me problems where I couldn't put stuff away that I use all the time. And so I've sort of struck this balance of a certain set of things just get repurchased and then sold or given away every year. And that we do the workshop because it's more expensive to me to take up the space than to have the thing. And then other times when I know it's like super rare and also easy to source, I don't necessarily keep it on hand, even though I'm all about pantry management and that sort of thing. There are just some things that, like my snow boots, yes, it's worth the space.
Yeah.
9 pair of flip-flops as backups, not worth the space.
No. And I mean, I'm also a fan of, like, I need this cookie sheet one time of year. Do they make a disposable cookie sheet that size? Cool. I will buy that once a year and get rid of it when we're done with it.
Yeah, and that may not, I mean, and that's the thing. When you get on a homestead, like, your first inclination is to save every dang thing ever. I can't put this old rusty jar lid ring in the garbage because I might need it someday. And the might need it some days can really get you in trouble and keep you from having the things you actually do use or do need. And so it's like finding that balance is hard. And somebody on Facebook says, no matter how much space you have, it will be filled. Ask me how I know. Yes, that's
Yeah.
100% true. I'm actually heading over to base camp right after this to pull a book out from somebody who's stopping by to pick it up today. And then while I'm there, I need to assess what is there that was in my house, because I'm going to start chipping away at that
Yeah.
this week, because I've got stuff outside that hasn't come back. It's time to deal with this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's part of the fun. Yesterday, I couldn't find my small little cookie sheet to weight down the Busterma with, and it's possible I actually got rid of that and put it in the Goodwill pile. Also, high alert mode for dogs. So, guys, our last segment of today is about finances. And if you have any questions or
Alright,
anything you want to
leave it.
hear about, now is a good time to get it in,
Leave
or
it.
else we're going to end the live stream.
Leave
Um,
it.
I am in the midst of a deep
Leave
dive
it.
with Agra's tax advice on all things farm, Nicole Sauce Industries, Hollow Roast Coffee, rental businesses, all of it, because I want to practice, excellent organizational skills and making sure we're set up right, just structure wise. And what that means is that I'm also looking at everything we do and assessing whether it's profitable or not. Which, some of the things that we've added in the last couple years are not profitable. And when something's not profitable, you have to decide why you're doing it. Are you doing it for profit and missing the mark? Can it be made profitable? Or is it something that is just a hobby or a lifestyle choice you've made, right? So that's something we're doing. And I think as a result of that, we may end up making some more hard decisions this year. Like, it was really hard to decide to get rid of the pigs.
Yeah.
But then once they were gone, it was a huge relief.
Yeah. I mean, that was actually a major adjustment for me because it was part of my routine. But, it was also kind of a pain having to deal with them, especially having to go once a quarter to go pick feed up.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a big thing. And if we would have been like getting into the business of selling pork, I think we could have made that profitable.
Yeah.
But we were not getting into the business of selling pork.
No.
We thought about it, but then it was like, no, we're not going to do that. But I think actually out of all the animals that you can sell, chickens and porks seem to be the lowest hanging fruit for profitability.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know about beef. I know that it's hard to make money on sheep,
Mm-hmm.
and that may be how we're managing them though too, like the size of the flock.
Yeah.
But I like we ate the ribs of one whole animal last night for one dinner.
Mm-hmm.
There were 20 rib thingies, I think, about 20. There may have been 18, whatever. I had 5 total. He had the rest.
Yeah.
I was going to be happy with 4, but there was one left and I'm like, this is not even worth putting in the fridge, so I ate it. Cuz they're like 1.5 bites, but it was pretty funny. Because when I pulled out these ribs out of the freezer, because I'm just in use it up mode on the sheep because they've been in there about a year, I was like, I'll just pull them all out because if I have extras, I can always like bring them back out at lunch or whatever. But nope, he was like, challenge accepted. That's how dinner went last night for sure. Um, and then it's time to schedule the chicken processing workshop. What do you think about that?
Okay.
I'm looking at early June.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, and this year I have already talked to the farmer who we used for the chicken processing workshop we did in October last year about buying chickens from her for the class because we don't eat Cornish cross here anymore.
Yeah.
And so raising Cornish cross is not what I want to do. I want to keep on the breasts, the American breasts, but they better start laying eggs. Anyway, and that means that we didn't want to send people home with a chicken they may or may not like. And I think the American breast is a very flavorful chicken. I really like it. But if what you're used to is big, white, tasteless chicken meat, the Cornish cross is more consumer friendly. And I'm not saying they're tasteless. Like a pasture raised Cornish cross bird is way different flavored than what you get at the store. But an American breast is like a totally different experience.
Yeah.
And people who are new to chicken processing are more used to the store chickens.
Cornish cross is way better than anything you'll buy in a store, but it's close enough to what you buy in the store. People don't think that it's gamey.
Well, then a lot of people don't like dark meat. I know
Yeah,
that's
that
not,
too.
I mean, like literally, I don't know how the Eversoles are on this issue. I should ask them, but I know that Nighthawk and Tactical and I all prefer the dark meat. So
Yeah.
it's like, who gets the thigh every time we cook them? The American breast, the breast meat is closer to a dark meat flavor.
Yeah.
So if you don't like dark meat, you're not going to like the American breast.
Yeah.
and that's just something to know. So I'm expecting that to be the first or second weekend of June. I'm speaking at an event in mid-June, so I need to make sure that it's at least a week before that so that we're not losing our minds. And if we go too late in the year, then it's going to be 7,000 degrees, and we don't want that. So we should have that class announcement up pretty soon. So if you're interested in taking the Holler Homestead annual chicken processing class, just keep your eye out for that. It's a fun class, and it's a good way to get to know some people who are interested in what you're interested in. Plus, you get to see the Holler Homestead. So that's fun. Anything else y'all want to talk about? You better get it in there. I don't see anything as I look to the side. So it looks like we're about done with Homestead happenings. If you like the show and want to support the work we're doing here, you can do it in two ways. What's the first way?
Buy more coffee.
Get your coffee at hollow.com. The second way is to check out the membership option over at livingfreeintennessee.com. With that, guys, go out, make it a great week.